Okay, my name's Arlina. My son's name is Sebastian. He's 5 years old, and he was diagnosed autistic when he was 2 years old. So the way it all started, I call it, it came at me sideways. I didn't see it coming. Um, he was developing normal, or what I thought was normal. Um, he was hitting milestones. Uh, Based on what the doctor was telling me where he was supposed to be at, um, he was babbling, he was making eye contact. Just the things that we are told to look out for, he was doing them just fine. So, I mean, he was just fine. But then, closer to about a year and a half, we started noticing that he stopped doing some things that he was initially doing, like a regression. We couldn't understand it because we were, of course, unaware of what was coming our way, right? But we started seeing some regression, and we started raising our concerns to his pediatrician. And his pediatrician, she referred us out to Stanford, and she didn't really tell me her concerns. You know, we just fill out this paper, like a questionnaire about his milestones or about his development. And based off of that, she sent us to Stanford. So when we get to Stanford, when he was 2 years old, they hit us with a diagnosis. So what we started seeing was he stopped waving, you know, when you say bye, he stopped doing that. He stopped turning by his name. He stopped eye contact, like it was not as it was before. What else? He started being a picky eater. Yeah, and people were telling me that's normal. That's what kids do, you know, at a certain, point in time. But that's pretty much it. You know, we at that point, that's what we saw then. And yeah, once he was 2 years old, we went to Stanford, and I went by myself that day, I remember. And because I thought, they're gonna tell me he's fine. There may be some kind of delay or some kind of, with therapies we can, but I never saw it coming. Yeah, I never saw the autism diagnosis coming. First explanation was, we don't know why it happens. We think there's 5 reasons: age, pesticides, I think environment, and honestly, I don't remember the other 2 because at that moment, I was just like, I couldn't think. And the options that they told me were therapy, ABA therapy, 40 hours. My son was 2 years old. 40 hours. Yeah, 40 hours of therapy with speech, just 40 hours of ABA, and additionally, I think it was like an hour a day for speech, and that's it.
Did you see yourself?
After a year of 40 hours a week of ABA therapy, I saw nothing. So from the age of 2 to 3, because I started immediately. I started looking for therapies immediately, and I saw nothing. He was a happy boy. He was a happy boy, and of course, I didn't know not even half of the things that I know now. So then I didn't know anything. All I knew was what I was being told by the professionals, which were like, oh, this is the only option. There's no cure. Not that I'm looking for a cure, but this is it. This is it. ABA, and that's it. And you get what you get. out of that, and that's it. So, but he was a happy boy. He was nonverbal, but he was a happy boy, so I was okay with that. But after a year that I saw no improvement, I was not okay with that. I was like, what is going on? They said that this is the only option. And I still don't see him, being able to develop, further than where we started a year ago. And he's doing like intense, a full-time job, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, no break, no, he didn't get no Christmas break with other kids, nothing, a full year, nada, nothing. So that's when I decided that I needed to learn more about our situation. And I kept seeing online, things about the microbiome and the brain connection. And, it sounded crazy. Like, what does that have to do with anything, That's dumb, like that was my initial thought, But then I was so tired of not seeing any progress after a year of my baby working so hard, because he was, I think, still a baby then, Now he's a little boy, but he was my baby away from my house for so long, and I just saw no progress, and I couldn't live like that. So that's when I decided to look into the, the gut and brain connection. And we started looking at, different protocols that had to do with the microbiome and the brain. And the first protocol that I did was an MeRT protocol. So I don't know if you are familiar with that protocol, but basically I thought it was not that bad, I guess. Not, it was just olive oil, fish oil, and inulin. I think it's a probiotic or something like that. I was like, okay, I give them red 40. Why not give them these, supplements? So we started that protocol, and within the first 3 months, I read his book, by the way, and he calls it the awakening period. When things start, moving and connecting, and my son went through the awakening period. The first 3 months, yeah, he started becoming aware of like his surroundings, more eye contact, better eating, still picky, but just a little bit better, accepting more foods. But that was it. You only get so far. And then once we were done with the inulin, where we hit a plateau, the doctor wanted to put him on I think it's an antibiotic. And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We already had these problems because we were, I guess, messing with antibiotics early on, which I later on learned, and these things I was learning as I was trying to connect, the whole brain and gut situation. So I said no more antibiotics for my son. So that's when we stopped the MeRT protocol. But then at that point, I decided that I wanted to have a better diet for him, because I had seen the, the connection between, the microbiome and the brain. So I was like, this is the way. If there's any changes that need to be made, it's going to be through the microbiome. That's the next chapter. So, once we figured out that the microbiome has a big, part in, my son's development and whatnot, we needed more like more knowledge, I guess. But I only knew so much from what I was reading, and at that time my son was okay, just okay. He was doing better. He was more connected, but just okay. And then all hell broke loose. I thought I would always ask therapists, like, oh, is this as bad as it gets, or is this it? My son didn't have any he didn't have any stereotypical behaviors of autism. Like he didn't have hand flapping. He didn't have like, the usual stereotypical behaviors. So I'd always wonder, is my son gonna, eventually develop those behaviors? Or, I'd ask around, and they'd tell me, no, this is it. This is what you get. And then he started, developing, the self-harm, the violent, aggressive, the stereotypical behaviors, the hand flapping, he started developing all those. And then it just got out of hand. It got out of hand, with the aggressiveness. He wasn't even able to like live life anymore. We got to that point where we're not even able to live life. What was once okay, maybe nonverbal, became just like a living hell for us. We weren't able to go out. We weren't able to travel. We were not able to get him to school because they'd call me to go get him because he was having a bad day. It's really hard for me to talk about it because it's been like the darkest time of my life. And that's when I came across the ABC protocol. I was looking for the best doctors for my son. And somehow, some way, I got in touch with, many doctors, many clinics, many protocols. And I worked with a few of them, but none of them could like give me that peace of mind, that told me he's okay. He's gonna be healed, So one day I was out of desperation because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I was running and listening to a podcast, your podcast. Your page was the first one, when I first got the diagnosis, the first one that I followed. But I would listen to your stuff, and I think you talk about MeRT, and I looked into MeRT by my house, but I just, I still wasn't unsure about going through with it. And then you talk about stem cells, and I looked into stem cells, but closer to my house, Mexico, where I thought then that was a more easy way to get the stem cells. But then when I looked into it, I was like, no, this is too invasive for my son, the way they do it in Mexico. No. But I left you as my right there. And then, one day that when things were at their worst, I was running out of desperation, and your page came back across. And you were doing a podcast, and you were talking, but you were talking to me. Every single thing that you were saying, you were talking to me. And I remember I started calling. I called the stem cell clinic. I called, I think your guys' ABC website was still kind of underworked because I was trying to reach somebody. I was in desperate mode then. And I got in contact with one of the coordinators, Vicky. And, she was so, open, willing to answer all my questions. And, she was so comforting at that moment, And, like I said, I work with many, many doctors, and, there was always, these roadblocks, that didn't allow me to go through with these, intensives. And I don't know, when I got to you guys, everything just, it was so smooth, Vicky, she was answering all my questions, but I know that you are a busy person, and I just randomly said, I want to talk to a medium. Let me talk to a medium, and let me see what she says. It's like, oh yeah, let me look for her. Let me look for her. She's somewhere around here. And that day that we had that conversation, You answered all my questions. You gave me that peace of mind. And I remember I came back home and I called my wife and I was like, look, I found this, watch this podcast. I sent it to her. And then she's like, yeah, we have to. And then she sent it to her mom and I sent it to my mom. And, our family was like, you guys got to go. You guys have to go. And how has it been? Well, for starters, we'll start from, like I said, it's just been a smooth flow. I'm a very spiritual person, and I always, ask God, to put me in the right place, in the right situations, to help me, guide me to where I need to get. And, from that first connection, it's always been a smooth, a smooth flow to get here, to get the services done, to go through like the procedures, everything. Before I couldn't imagine, how am I going to do this with my son? How am I going to do this with my autistic, aggressive, violent son? How? The way we did it this whole time, we're almost done. We got 1 week left to go and it's been smooth. Oh, so that was one of the first things, when we started seeing the worst turn. Of course, I stopped sleeping, right? Because you're worried. There's so many things going on. You're stressed. Everything's just bad. And I hadn't slept for about a year or a year and a half. And as soon as we got here to Panama and I started seeing and feeling my son healing, I started sleeping again. Like throughout the night. Like I don't wake up. I'm not worried that if he's breathing or not or what's going on with him, because I know he's like resting as well. He's healing. Yeah. Like they tell you, oh, he's a picky eater because he's autistic. No, he was not a picky eater because he was autistic. He was a picky eater because he needed healing in his gut. He needed to heal that gut. Oh, this guy tries everything that I give him now. Yeah. Yeah, he's eating everything that I give him. Yeah. And I don't have to force him or bribe him or anything. He's just, that tells me he's healing. Sleeping. He's sleeping now. That tells me he's healing. Yeah, I mean, of course, he has better eye contact. He's following commands, better understanding. Just in every area, his development has taken off in everything that you can think of. But I think for us in the community, the most important ones are like the eating and the sleeping, because those are the ones that if your body is not sleeping or eating well, everything's a mess. So for me, those were like the biggest and most important accomplishments that I think it takes us parents a big deal of healing, focusing on those two. But for us, it's been great. And what have I learned? Antibiotics, for starters. They tell you that, oh, they do no harm to babies. I think that, at the beginning was like one of the biggest, it's like a domino effect, I guess, once something, hits, everything starts, going down. That was, I think, for my son, one of the biggest things that affected him. He got antibiotics very early on. And that, I don't want to get controversial, but vaccines too. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just think that you have to be well informed before you make those decisions. You know, nutrition, of course. People always tell you, I grew up eating that way. Okay, but we don't live the same times. We don't live the same food. That is the biggest one, the food part. And the biggest one, I'd say, when they say there's nothing else that you can do about an autism, you know, diagnosis. That is going to be, for me, the biggest one. Yeah.
Biggest. Wow.
Yeah. 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 How do you? Diagnosis is not a prognosis. You know, like you can't tell the future. You know, so how does anybody know that, you know, a child can't change? You know, the only thing that you got to lose is what? If you know, you gotta try it. Give it a try. Just give it a chance. You got nothing to lose. I've learned in these past few months what I've never learned in, I guess, 20 years. Man, just one thing I have to choose, because I learn a lot. There's always a reason for everything. Every symptom, there's an organic cause. Always. I don't care what anybody says. Always. For starters, that the microbiome is directly connected to the brain, no matter what anybody says. I mean, anybody can show me research papers that say otherwise, but I'm living it with my son. I'm living it with my son. And what else have I learned? Protocols. There's no one size that fits all. Everything has to be very unique, tailored to each individual. For sure. That's the one thing, you know, there's in the US, you know, there's, like I said, I work with many doctors. They always want to put you in this, you know, this protocol. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's given me a customized or tailored protocol until I got here. I wouldn't even just recommend it for autism. I'd recommend it for anything. So whatever title you are given, you know, whatever diagnosis, whether it's for your kid or for yourself, you know, I definitely recommend it. I'd recommend the protocol because it doesn't look at a diagnosis. It looks at healing the person. That's it. We're not looking for, oh, is my son, you know, autistic or ADHD or, you know, does he have Lyme or, no, he has these symptoms, these are his tests, and this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna heal him. And I'm seeing all the progress, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. I know my wife got stem cells. We of course, we were, you know, we did some blood work. We got, you know, some epigenetic testing done. Yeah, no, we were hating the vaccine that it's autoimmunity vaccine. We're hating it, but the next day we came back asking for another one because we felt so good. Yeah. I mean, we feel good. We're healing as a family. That's what I can say. Yeah, we're healing as a family. I always tell my wife, my son came to save us, not the other way around. He's here for a reason. Yeah.
So what do you see now? You told me before you felt like you were on the right track. So on this track, how do you see this future, this beautiful boy of yours?
How do I see? Man. Healthy, healed, strong, brave, courageous, adventurous. By the way, these are his affirmations every day. Yeah. Blessed, for sure. Lucky. Yeah. Yeah. You know, he can't right now, he can't verbally tell me that he feels good. But in that, connection that we have, I know he's happy and I know he's feeling good. And every day, he tells me in his, in his energetic field. Yeah. Anything that I want to say to them, follow your mom instinct. Follow your, if you're getting that instinct inside of you, like there's more to look for than what they're telling you, or dig deeper. Follow your mom instinct. It's never wrong. It's never wrong.